Question is brilliant. Can you relate to us some of your experiences with European bands, and what lessons do you think we in the UK might learn from the European and Scandinavian bands?
That's a very good question. I have had a very, very long association with European brass bands. I first went out, I think, in the 1970s, and it was to Stavanger Brass Band. And since then, I've had relationships with Ikanger, Stavanger, and a couple of bands in Switzerland and a couple of bands in the Netherlands. I've always had very strong, close associations with them. What strikes me about European banding, which is something we can learn, is that they are not tied down by tradition, which is a great thing. I mean, tradition can be very positive and it can be very negative. For us in the UK, you know, we invented brass bands, we invented cricket, we invented football. And yet when you compare us to other European nations in those sports or whatever, it's often they lead the way now, not us.
Absolutely.
So you have to ask yourself, well, why is that? It's because they, I think, come fresh to what they want to do. They're much more adventurous in terms of repertoire. For example, the Norwegian competition set some of the most contemporary music for their test pieces by really avant-garde composers, and I really admire them for that. And I think also what we should learn is that the infrastructure, for example, in Norway, is that the NMF, which is the National Association of Brass Bands and Wind Bands, all brass bands and wind bands have to belong to that federation. Every member has to pay a subscription every year, or else a band can't enter for any competition. What I want to see in this country is that happening. I want to see, and I hope Brass Band England's, I'm sure is the right now with leadership that they've got, to take brass banding onto a new level in this country, whereby it's Brass Bands England that will run the major national competition at some time in the future. They will also have educational policy. They will have, I hope, a young composer in residence in most brass bands in the country. That's what I want to see. I want to see some really revolutionary thinking about the way that brass bands are going to develop in this country. And we can learn an awful lot from our European colleagues.